What is going on, you guys? This is Bach the Rock, and today, guys, we are getting back, yes, back into some news. So, if you guys don't know what's going on, let me kick you in on the nitty gritty. If you guys read the news, so we're gonna start off with a little backtrack. Sorry, I gotta fix my mic a little bit. Knock down the decibels. There we go. This should be good. This should be good. So anyway, guys, we're going to be getting back into the little bit of recent news and updates. First things first, I got to check my audio, but while I'm doing that, I will explain to you guys a little bit of the leeway. So if you guys don't remember, Ramsey Kahlid Ismael, A.K.A Johnny Somali, we do know his sentence, which would be 6 months. Well, actually, 6 months of detention center. Well, 6 months and 20 days. The 20 days in the detention center, 6 months in prison with labor, and we do know the last two: personal belongings confiscated, and of course, has to be on the registered sex offenders list for at least 5 years. Now, people are arguing about that, about basically them possibly. Uh, Sorry guys, I know I'm getting distracted. My mind's going like the whole ADHD, attention deficit, hey squirrel kind of deal. So let me get my audio pulled up. I'm going to double check that, and then we are going to get cooked. Well, we're going to get cooking. Make sure my audio is good and well. Okay, good. Audio's coming through. Good. So let's play a little bit of a catching up. So if you guys don't remember, again, just to re-get the facts while I get the YouTube vid that I will be reacting to. So, if you guys don't remember, Ramsey Kahlid Ismael already went through his court date. They already sentenced him. He was supposed to be stuck in to get 6 months of prison time with labor. He has his cell phones, all of his belongings confiscated, and he's on the registered sex offenders list for 5 years. Okay, so we know that much. We just now, guys, if you caught up with this, but through either Legal Mindset or Tozy, I'll do each video where I'll react to each one, just so we can get the whole bread and butter of the context. But basically, this is what we know so far. So we know that a Tozy covered it, Legal Mindset covered it, and we're going to try to. I'm going to put in my 2 cents in from each of their sides of the story. So, like, what I'm going to do is, once I get this caught up, and paused. Okay, there we go, So we are going to move this around a little bit. So, like I said, guys, what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to keep it small enough. I'm going to put it at what I might do is switch the sizes this time around. Like, make my screen, like, maybe 3/4 smaller. Like, about right here. Just trying to make sure it's not too small, too big. But I want to try to make them equal. So that way it's like, you guys see me, but also see the stream. Yeah, we'll do this. I'll make my screen a little bit bigger. Yeah, guys, sorry you see me adjusting this. It's like I'm trying to find the perfect angle to where I can do this. Because if I reverse it, like, this won't cover the whole stream. So that's pretty much the issue. So we'll do this. So it'll be right up here in the corner, shrunken down a little bit. But I will be watching and reacting, and then, we will pretty much go from there. And if I do a Tozy one, like I said, I will, and again, guys, throwing a disclaimer, I do not own the clip. all rights go to Legal Mindset, which is why, if you guys look closely, you can see his channel right down there in the small, uh, right where my finger is. Like if you point it up right there, in the small, teensy tiny, itty bitty. Like if you have a magnifying glass, like the thing, or if you can see it on a bigger screen, this belongs to him. I'm only reacting to it, so I'm just giving you guys a heads up. So if you guys didn't read the disclaimer in the if my brain will stop, you know. But like I said, if you guys didn't read the disclaimer, then you guys see the name of the channel right underneath here. Make sure I got my finger right. So it's right here. And I will give a shout out to Legal Mindset for keeping us in the loop. And, like I said, I will be putting my 2 cents in for my viewers. So if anybody has any questions or anything like that, I will fill in to the best of my abilities. So, enough small talk. We've been getting on the stalling enough. Let's get into the information, the meat and potatoes, and the reason why R.K.I is going to be cooked, flambéed, medium well done, and completely about ready to be cooked like an exquisite one-piece Sanji dish. So enough with the nitty-gritty. Let's go.
Both the prosecution and Ramsey Kahlid Ismael have appealed the decision of his court sentence in Seoul, South Korea. We're getting into Somali's detention hell that is just beginning now, and now he's in the absolute worst position possible. Of course, as a Legal Mindset, we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney who's been tracking the Somali case from beginning to end. So let's jump right into it with my opening statement. So as you guys probably know, but to recap, Ramsey Kahlid Ismael, A.K.A Johnny Somali, was found guilty on all charges tracking the Somali case from beginning to end. So let's jump right into it with my opening statement.
All right, so if you guys can't read the opening statement right under where I'm pointing above, like I don't have a pointer and I don't have a cursor, so I apologize. It says here, Ramsey Kahlid Ismael, Johnny Somali, found guilty on all charges. Now, if you guys don't remember the charges, there were 4 obstruction of businesses, 2 minor offenses acts, and 2 deepfake charges. Okay? So, if you remember, this is the funniest one that I've ever heard, that basically the first minor offenses act involved a dead fish. Now, running along with it, a dead fish. And this is the same dead fish that he was seeing in TikTok vids, where he basically poured soju in the mouth of the fish and then just chucked it back from the dead fish's mouth. Gross, I know, but to be fair, I would never do that. And honestly, I don't know why his craziness thought, well, hey, I'm going to do this for content. Yeah, unless you want to get some kind of poisoning. Because, guys, it depends on the fish, but I think some people have explained, like, if fish are in some kind of infested waters, like, you know how you go fishing, and basically sometimes when you catch a fish, if you get a big fish, you always spot a small leech on the belly. That's basically the quote everybody keeps using. Like for big products or big companies or big pharmas, basically they say with every big fish there's always a leech on the belly. So anyway, but let's get back into this. It says here, where was I? Oh yeah, I just finished reading guilty on all charges, and sentenced to 6 months in prison with labor, additional 20 days of detention, 5 years registered sex offender status, and phones permanently confiscated. And here's what we found out. So this is where one of my buddies found out. It says here, Ramsey filed for an appeal on April 20th, which was officially 2 days ago. So an appeal's officially happening. Prosecution filed an appeal today. So this was also, I think this was also like, what, 2. Hold on a second. Let me stretch this out. Let me stretch out the interface. Let's see. Wouldn't that have been like what 2 days ago? I don't know. It's probably gonna be. It's probably 2 days ago. So I can't see the date on it, but apparently it was 2 days ago. So that's why we're going to be looking into this. So let's continue on because we got another few minutes in, and I will be putting in my pieces from here to there, there to here. So basically, it's like a Dr. Seuss remedy. Like basically, if you guys remember the quote, from there to here, here to there, funny things are everywhere. Well, they should. If you could change that nursery rhyme up, Ramsey would definitely be cooked from there to here, here to there. So, other than that, let's continue.
And so, as you guys probably know, but to recap, Ramsey Kahlid Ismael, A.K.A Johnny Somali, was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to 6 months in prison with labor, an additional 20 days of detention, 5 years of offender status, and had his phones permanently confiscated. Now, yesterday on the 20th, Ramsey Kahlid Ismael actually submitted for an appeal in Seoul, South Korea. And
Yep, and I'm gonna stop right there for a minute, so you guys can so I can explain this. So a little bit, guys. If you guys don't remember, he's appealed for try to lower his sentence, while the prosecutor is doing the exact opposite. Now, if I don't remember which season it was, but if you ever watch Yu-Gi-Oh, you know how Yami Yugi faces off against a bully, and they pulled the whole thing like the Old West. You draw a Yu-Gi-Oh card, highest attack is the winner. Well, basically, it's kind of like a regular game of cards with like the game War. So like basically, if you have a low card, your opponent has a high card. You take the card and you put it in your deck. But if they reverse the high cards and have the highest cards, they put it in their deck. So let's. Oh yeah, they're still on this one. So basically, what it is from shortening it. This is the one thing I remember. So, and I did look over it at some point. According to what was brought up in some YouTube vids between, of course, Legal Mindset and Natosi, they said that basically, from what I'm understanding, now you guys can contradict me, you guys can quote me on this because I'm not one of those channels that try to get my facts all loosey goosey and messed up here and there. But from what I understand is Ramsey is trying to fight to free himself. But at the same time, the prosecutor is fighting to extend the sentence. Now, reason why we figured that one out is because the whole Bong Bong and Youngman fiasco. Plus, not only that, there was also the pretty much everything else, which could have been, should have been. But that's my opinion. That's my guess. So if you guys want to, you know, hit the distance on like you're at a golf range, be my guest. I mean, I'll be happy to be the one of the types where I wear a giant mattress and you guys try to hit me with the golf balls, but still, any comment is available and I'll be happy to. But anyway, all that's metaphorical, but let's continue on.
And today we have news that the prosecution has filed an appeal. So it is officially happening. Here's the actual submission form you can pull online, and you see here 4/21/2026 prosecutor Park Sojung submits an appeal, and the prosecutor submitted a statement for grounds for the appeal. So it is happening, folks. And right now, we need to understand that after he was dragged out of the courtroom, he was handcuffed, all of his possessions were taken, he was marched off to the police station.
Yep. As you guys remember, like I said, after he was found guilty for all charges, Ramsey Kahlid Ismael was pretty much taken back to the back, cuffed, confiscated, and was completely headed to the police station, which, in my defense, I actually thought was pretty slick. Because, guys, if you don't remember, we're going to bring back some of his past records. Now, as I said before, guys, I tried to show a clip of his crimes. Like, for example, when he was holding up his phone, and I'll show you guys an example. where he was blaring music and he was holding up his phone, showing off the North Korean flag, and basically he was telling the North, hey, please turn this into Fallout New Vegas, stuff like that. It's like, dude, you're running your mouth, or in other words, like what people say, you're writing checks. Well, actually, you know what? I'll put a couple coins into the swear jar for this. But he's basically writing checks his ass can't cash. Okay, like the best way I can describe the scenario would be like if you guys ever seen what the superhero movie, excuse me, the superhero movie Hancock with Will Smith, and the prisoner scene where two prisoners are blocking him off, and he warned that if they didn't move, one of their heads is gonna go up their air. Well, basically, it was kind of like that, and that's Ramsey. Pretty much writing a check that his butt can't cash.
Where he remained in a holding cell probably over the weekend, and then he's taken to Seoul Detention Center, specifically Seoul Nambu Detention Center, which is where we have essentially confirmed he is right now, and we're going to get into exactly how bad that is. But what's good is the cabbages are still available, so if you guys haven't got a cabbage plushie, make sure you get those to celebrate this momentous occasion of
And yeah, before anybody asks me about the cabbage plushie,
Johnny finally getting what he deserves. The link is in.
And before anybody asks, I may see about getting a U2's cabbage plushie. Now, before y'all are wondering, you're probably wondering, Baccarat, why would you get a plushie of a cabbage? Well, guys, to be fair, if I had one of those in the background, and anytime one of Ramsey's quote unquote booty goons decide to watch my stream, and they think, oh, well, we're going to screw them up here, I'll say, really? I'll point to the cabbage and I'll be like, that mother chicken's watching you. You want to wind up like your boy or your quote unquote Madara Uchiha? Please, let's resemble this and then put it to where it could be a possibility that could be you if you're not careful. Anywho, but I haven't gotten an order again yet. If I do decide to get one, guys, I want to get one as soon as possible. But like I said, with everything that's been going up and down, finance-wise, because I know everybody's been asking me, well, when are you going to live stream here? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? I got to balance everything out and get my perspective and bearings. Okay? But this is gonna be on my list of what to get done, and getting one of these little cabbages that resembles the cabbage of Ramsey Kahlid Ismael. That would definitely be pretty nice to put in my work office, so that way, anytime anybody wants to bring up that, I'll say, yeah, you want to bring up Ramsey Kahlid Ismael? Right there. Why don't you look at the cabbage? Because that thing will give you an emotional distraught of a cabbage.
In the description below, and it's also in the pinned comments. All right, so let's get into this detention hell. So in case you guys weren't paying attention to my other video, I'm going to recap this double detention and how this works to extend his sentence. So he did receive 6 months of prison, technically 6 months and 20 days. But on top of that, they can slap at least 6 months for the appeal. Actually, that can go even more if he appeals to higher courts.
Okay, so let's see. So we already know that he's got 6 months. So it's kind of like gambling. If they wanted to, they could double down. So like, and to those of you who never played poker, which I have, if you're at a table that's like a quarter table, that'd be like saying if you think you got a good hand, you call 20. Like someone says, I'll call 25 cents, and then you're the type of person that would like throw in a quarter, saying you call and you raised 50 cents. That'd be like saying that. So like, just to say hypothetical, that'd be like saying if you were betting Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Now, say you had a rare card in your collection, and you think it could go up to maybe $500, or if it's a discontinued version, it could go up to 5 to 20 grand. Now, if you guys ever played poker, it's one of those games where you have to huff and puff, bluff and fold. Now, that's the issue of one thing I can understand here. Because when I used to play poker, me and my buddies, we played coin poker. And if you guys don't know what coin poker, I can't even speak right. Coin po. Pause, rewind, repeat. If you don't know what coin poker is, we would have coins like pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, and we could cash them in for chips. Okay, so like say you got 2 cents, they'll give you chips that are like 2 cents worth. So you're not actually losing coin. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll keep your payments on the rigging of the or the edge of the table, and then like say if someone bets a penny, you can call, throw in a chip, and then raise an extra penny. So like you can double down each turn. But the whole trick of the game was like if you didn't know what people were playing, you gotta they'll try to bluff you out. So like say you think you have a good hand, you try to bluff out the players, like try to make signs and stuff. Then basically what they will do is if they think, oh crap, this guy's got a hand, and then they'll quickly want to slam their cards down and fold. That's basically what this is like. That's what this is basically like. This is basically like poker. So again, so we do know that the detention that Ramsey Kahlid Ismael is getting cooked in, he had 6 months, but they're giving him an additional 6 months. So that's 12 months, and that's going to be close to a year.
It brings us all the way up to the Supreme Court. He could get up to perhaps another 8 months on top of that. So this can go well over a year. But at a minimum, we're looking at 6 months here. And so even after the time of his sentence, so even after the 6 months is done, they don't let you go and let you back in Korea after that conviction. They have to hold him in the detention center. He's in there with other folks that are appealing, other folks that are perhaps waiting to get sent out of the country or have other issues. So all of those people are held there. They do not get to roam free. They are forced to stay in the detention center.
Yeah, and that's another thing. So I looked over it real quick. So I looked up why people thought that South Korea's law system was acting off. Okay, now I've had a couple comments because people have been going over the videos. Even when I've recommended Tozy Legal Mindset, if you're going looking into it, I've had people ask me off stream. Why do they let you roam? Why do they let you roam if you're travel banned? Stuff like that. Well, and I explained it to him. I said basically the process, like I said, I basically told him that, well, according to other YouTubers, like Legal Mindset or vice versa, the process is the punishment. So, and I explained it to him. I said, so what I learned from Legal Mindset, Atozi, pretty much everybody who's covered Ramsey Kahlid Ismael or quote unquote Johnny Somali. Again, we're not using his moniker because he doesn't deserve the respect. I told them that basically because of the fact that if he was locked up, then it would be South Korean attack. Sorry, guys. Speech impediment. I am trying my best to keep that under control. So, pause, rewind. What I was explaining to the people that were asking me why he wasn't locked up was because I told them that from watching Legal Mindset, watching Atozi, trying to understand the Korean law system, that while they're processing for their court dates, they have to pay for food, shelter. They have to pay for everything because if they're illegally making money, which we all know Ramsey was doing because he kept on streaming, doing stuff, and then of course we all know he's been threatening people with his quote unquote booty goons, which I'll be honest with you. If you guys ever watched the clip from South Park with Looney Tunes reference with Osama bin Laden and Eric Cartman, that's what I think of Ramsey Khalid Ismail's booty goons. Because if you guys don't remember, just a quick remembrance. So if you guys don't remember when Ramsey Khalid or yeah, I mixed this up. When Osama bin Laden and Eric Cartman was doing the whole Looney Tunes shtick in South Park, You remember where when Osama bin Laden was too distracted, he basically got depantsed, and then you know how they had mini magnifying glasses going and where he was depantsed, and pretty much they held up a wooden sign that said "tiny," isn't it? That's basically the whole deal with Ramsey Khalid Ismail's booty goons, pretty much. Now, if anybody can make a GIF of that, like make an artwork of that exact moment with Eric Cartman and Osama bin Laden, but use a picture of one of Ramsey Khalid Ismail's booty goons, that would actually be pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie, that would actually be pretty funny. So, but anyway, let's get back into this. Let's get back into this before my ADHD kicks in.
Even past the time of their sentence. So even if Johnny was to win, that may not work out right. And why this is particularly funny and something that we've held on to for a very long time is because we knew that if he was, and we on the SCT knew that if he appealed this, he would be stuck in the detention center for even longer. So if he'd actually just taken the sentence and ridden it out, he might be able to just get out of there quicker. It's possible.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna quote what he said right there. What Legal Mindset said. So yeah, basically what he said was, if he would have taken the time, he could have been out there quicker. But he chose to appeal it along with the prosecutor. So now he's gonna be stuck in there for a year. Oh my Lord have mercy. See, and now you guys are wondering why I see he's an idiot. So we're gonna bring it up. So if you guys remember the Comfort Women statues in Itaewon and Seoul, okay, you remember what he did to those statues. Even though I tried to show the clips and basically I could not do that because of the music. So what I'm gonna try to do is the next time I decide to show some clips, I'm gonna try to balance them out, go through an editing process, find an editor, like uh, an editing app or software. So like if there's any music that's copyrighted, I'll try to look through the system, and it's like if that music's copyrighted, I'll be like clip, cut it out, and then you know. But like I said, guys, I'm also gonna have to deal with the excuse me. I'm gonna have to deal with the thing for this week about the South Korean news thing. So that's gonna be the itty bitty, and I'm pretty sure you guys are still hearing the feedback, which I'm gonna try to get that fixed. I might talk to a buddy of mine and see if they can pop down and help me figure out what's up with the audio mixer, help me out with whatever, and I will try to get this fixed as soon as possible. But I'm gonna see if I can get the fix the audio input by myself, and then we're gonna lower down the audio, the output of the audio for the capture. Hope now. Let me see if that'll work. Let's hope that'll work. Let's hope that'll work. So anyway, what we did. So back to what we were gonna do. We'll finish this up, and then I'll put in my 2 cents on where I think this is crazy.
If the prosecutor didn't appeal that. But because he actually appealed, he's now stuck. And I know that sounds crazy, right? As it says here. Wait, what? But I put in my appeal. I'm going to go to prison for how much longer? That's not fair. Well, in Korea, the process is the punishment. And indeed, he is learning here today. So, all throughout that appeal process, he's going to be stuck in the detention center. And we're going to get into why the detention center specifically is worse than the labor prison. But to do that, we really need.
Okay. Now I'm gonna grow this out a little bit so you guys can see the imagery. They use the picture. And then I gotta shrink myself down a little bit. All right, so if you guys can see from my perspective, okay. So I'm gonna move this over here real quick, and then I'll switch everything back around, like grow my thing, and then so if you guys can see the angel and devil kind of deal, like right in this perspective, or I'll have to point over this way, but right on the left hand side perspective, I will admit that is funny. I'll give kudos to whoever made that GIF, but honestly, what they should have done was use like an anime kind of deal. Like the artwork, I will admit, I will give 100% that they did a good job on it. But what they should have done was they should have used like some kind of anime reference. And before you guys ask, I know this is going to sound crazy, but they should have done like a high school DxD kind of thing, or they should have done like crap. What other animes were there? Crap. I can't remember the animes right off the top of my head, but they should have done something a little more funnier. So, that would have been funny. I mean, like, that literally would have been funny, but at the same time, I can understand the reasoning there. I can understand the reasoning there. So, anywho, with that being done, I'm going to shrink this back down to the size of my headset. I'll either plop this down here so y'all can see my face, and then I'll possibly have to move over to the right a little bit. So about right here, angle my camera, and then we'll continue on. So we'll interact and
to explain to you guys how the labor prison compared to the detention center is absolute heaven. That labor center, the factory where you'd be making fish cakes or cleaning toilets, doing whatever else, the labor prison, which likely would be Chonan prison, that prison to prisoners looks like heaven compared to the hell that is the detention center, specifically Seoul Nambu Detention Center. We had the chance to actually interview someone who'd been there to that detention center, and they walked us through the entire process on and how it's such a bad thing. And just so you guys understand, this is what happens. They start at the court, they may go to the police station, a holding cell for a couple days, and then they go to the detention center. And they wait at the detention center till that appeal period is up. And if they choose not to appeal, if they do not appeal, then they'll go on to the prison that they are sorted into, right? So if it
So in other words, it's like the Harry Potter reference. Excuse me. So like the way they got it is like the Harry Potter reference. Like if you go in, you get sorted to your house after you're processed as a new student, which is actually pretty funny. And mind you guys, this is actually pretty funny. So like we said with what Legal Mindset said, and this is funny. The reason why Ramsey did not know this stuff is because he lacked the common sense thereof. Now, if you guys remember the dang speech impediment, the speech to text information. You guys remember Lotte World. You guys remember the public transit. So you guys remember all that, and basically that's pretty much the gist of the problem. So, but here's the kicker. Because he's and like what Legal Mindset just got through saying, because him and the prosecutor appealed, instead of being at the detention center for 6 months, it's going to be up to a year. So, he's probably going to be in there for a year and 6 months, which, mind you guys, with his record of crimes right there, I hate to say it, but he's asking for trouble. All right, now now we're gonna backtrack a little bit. Now, if you guys, and I have a buddy who's been through this, okay, and I will give you guys a backstory real quick before we continue the vid. So I had a buddy who was registered. Well, he and I stopped talking because he had a problem and he wouldn't fix his problem. So he went to jail possibly 4 or 5 times. I can't remember how many times exactly. So the record was he went to jail. He stayed in there for a period of time. He got out. He comes finds me. I try to help him, but when I'm away from him, it's kind of like someone who was doing the puff puff pass. but they thought they could take one hit to relax and then let it go. But then when they get that hankering and craving, like they're gonna push themselves to overdo it. Out of the last out of the last 4 times, I tried to. I mean, like 4 times he went in, he went, did his time, got out. He tried to get some help with me, but I told him enough's enough. Well, the 5th time he was supposed to go back, I found out the hard way that he tried to pretty much. It turns out he was trying to run. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, what the heck? Well, one of the POs that he was working with him during the time frame found me at my old place of work, and she questioned me about him. Like and yes, it was a she. I'll tell you that much. But she comes in. Now she had the attitude like, what was the name of that parole officer from Shameless? It's the one that's the uptight. Oh hey, um, she loses her kicks because of one of the Gallagher kids, and she basically turns into a bit of a. I'm not gonna say the word, but basically she threatens the family with a Smith and Wesson or a pistol, pretty much. I don't know her name exactly. If you guys know her name, then you know. But the only clip I remember was whenever Gallagher went to go pick up his paycheck, he signed for it. His boss tells him to run, and basically the PO steals his check, and basically was a bit of a BO. But anyway, but to continue, so she had that attitude, but she knew me because I was the type who pretty much tried to help him. Well, it turns out that I found out that he was caught somewhere that he wasn't supposed to be, and I never understood why. So the PO questioned me. She asked me where I was at the time frame when he was gone, and I flat out told her. I was like, "Look, I was at this place at this time, this place at this time. I had stuff I needed to do, and I worked my shift for the remainder of the day." So, and every place, and when she was like, "Do you have people that can vouch for that?" I wrote down every place, name of the person, or name of the people that was there, and then once that was that, she made the calls right at my place of work. Once she got checked all the theories, she looked at me and I said, "Look, I don't know why you're giving me the alpha eyes, like you're gonna say or do something, but the thing is, I don't know anything about him. All I know is that the last 4 times when he went in, did his time, and got out, he came to me. After the 4th time, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I cut ties with him. That's it." So once she knew I was dead serious, she decided, hey, he's telling the truth. And I said, look, if you want me to leave work so I can come up and take a polygraph test or any kind of test that I have to take just to get you guys off my back, I'll be willing. Well, and she was surprised because nobody would be willing to take a polygraph test. If people are lying, they'll try to deny it. But then if some people are confident they're telling the truth, they're like, yeah, we'll take the test just to prove a point. But beside the point, I did what I had to do back then, and I swore, if I ever saw him again, I said I would not help. I am steering clear. I've changed my ways. I've changed my temper. Because guys, I already had that. Like I said, I've already had enough stress on my within the years. And if you guys want to know why, I can't show you, but I can explain it. But I told you guys about it a while back. I had to have a hernia fixed, and I had to have a gallbladder removed. And then lately, I've been having some acidic attacks, which I know people are going to say, "Oh, well, you need to go to a professional. You need to talk to somebody." I'm going to make an appointment to do that as soon as possible, and I'm going to try to get what I can done. Okay? So, besides that information, besides the story, let's get back into legal mindset. Oh, let's get back into legal mindset. finish this vid up, and then at the end of this vid, I'm gonna put in my last 2 cents in, and what I think should happen to Ramsey. But for the record, guys, I don't condone violence. No matter what, I never condone it unless someone pushes me off the deep end. Well, even if someone pushes me off the deep end, metaphorical wise, is the best way I can word it. So let's finish this up. We're at the 4:22 mark, so we're gonna try to finish this up. I will try to cut less on the chitter chatter. We'll get this through, and then I'll put in my 2 cents in after the whole thing, or I'll try to react halfway.
If it's a labor charge that requires you to do labor, they'll go to a labor prison, likely Chonan, end up in a factory job there, and end up doing that work at that separate prison, at that labor prison. But if they appeal this step, step 2, never goes to step 3. They're stuck in this detention center. And this detention center, ladies and gentlemen, is rough. So, talking and interviewing with our individual who'd been there and going through all the details, there's some crazy stuff. First of all, the detention center is at a 130% capacity. In the detention center, specifically Seoul Nambu.
Okay, so we're going to read this description. We get up to this point. I'm sorry, guys. I know I keep pausing. So it says here. So as he quotes it, detention hell or detention hell loop. Detention center at 130% capacity. 6 people per room for foreigners, which is 7 for Koreans. Foreigners stay in the room all day. 30 minutes of outdoor time every other Saturday. Can't talk to others, only communicate by letter. 1 hot shower a week. Wow. 1 hot shower a week. Fights over hot water. Lawyers in prison try to exploit foreigners. Food is horrible. Buckets of rice and soup, and can't order from the commissary unless speak Korean. Unless, okay, I think he didn't error correct here because where it says unless speak Korean, I think it's supposed to be unless I think it's supposed to say unless you speak Korean, or unless they speak Korean. Because it says unless speak Korean. I mean, like, I can understand why. I think he was trying to be in a hurry to finish that, but it says, like, right here, can't order from commissary unless speak Korean. So right here, he should have put unless you/they speak Korean. So let's continue.
Detention center, they are packed in tight. They pack them in 6 people to a room for foreigners, 7 for Koreans, probably because they assume that foreigners are larger and going to take up more space. And indeed, the one with the lowest rank, the one who is considered the lowest in the room, has to sleep next to the toilet.
Wow. Okay, that's kind of a. I'm gonna pause that there and say this. Let's just hope he's not the shortest camel, the shortest straw in the pack, because guys, I will tell you this much: if you would have to sleep next to a toilet, I believe you and me both, that would be pretty bad. All right, so I'm gonna tell you guys a bad experience I had. So I used to go camping with a buddy of mine, and we would go to a campground. And you know how they have those connector porta potties, like if you're supposed to use the buddy system when you're camping, and you have to go to the bathroom, they have to go to the bathroom. Well, they packed them so close, like if air is supposed to come in, you couldn't get it. One of my buddies ate ate a big pot of chili, and he ate the whole pot. Now, if you ever seen what was it? I know there was a cartoon that did the whole chili with beans in it joke. I think it was like Johnny Test, but it was like when the villains got their superpowers, and basically the brain freezer eats a whole pot of chili, and he has flaming farts pretty much. So basically, my friend ate the whole pot of chili, which we're gonna get into this. I had to use the bathroom, he had to use the bathroom, so it was like, okay, we use the buddy system, we're gonna go do all that. He went into one stall, I went into one stall, or went into one porta potty, I went into the other. Well, right when I was using the bathroom, all of a sudden I hear this loud like gas rip, and then after I hear this loud gas rip, I hear like him having a bad case of upset stomach diarrhea combo. So when that happened, the smell was so bad. Like first off, if you guys remember, they have little windows in the porta potties, and it's supposed to air out the porta potty. So it's supposed to circulate air, but because the windows were blocked off by on one side, and there was no other window, the stink went from one porta potty to the other. So while I was in the porta potty, the whole thing pause, rewind. The whole thing stunk up like a gas chamber. All right, now if you have the smell was so I like now. I know what you guys mean by when you talk about a gas chamber. Like if you've seen the like superhero flicks when people are in a gas chamber and they're breathing in a gas that's supposed to heal them or upgrade their muscles and stuff. No, this stink was so bad. My eyes were watering. I literally felt like I was going to throw up. So after I used the bathroom, I almost knocked over the porta potty, which I'll be man enough to admit this part. But I was trying to get out quickly because, like, after I used the bathroom, I finished up. I'm like, okay, I gotta get the heck out of here. So I'm trying to get out of there. I forget that the door was locked first. So I go to try to just bash the door open, and I waddled the whole thing. So then, right after I realized, oh, door locked, I quickly unlocked the door. I ran outside. I ran a couple feet from the porta potty, and I took in a deep breath of air. And my friend's coming out, and he's holding his stomach. I mean, like he was like acting like Woody from The Sweet Life on Deck. And I said, dude, you did not just. He's like, yeah, I rode that puppy in pretty bad. And I'm like, oh dear Lord, have mercy. Oh, I was like, oh dear Lord, you. Like I was mad, but I did get payback at some point because what happened was the worst. So during our camping trip, we had a couple of girls with us. Well, no. Okay, I messed that up, guys. Let me rewind that. There was a couple of girls that was in a neighboring trailer, and we all had to share the same porta potty. Like there were two sets of porta potties. There was no other bathroom. Either they weren't there yet, or there was just something I had no idea. But the girls decided to, go use the porta potty. And my friend decided he had to use the porta potty because he decided to have a big bowl of he made homemade custom chili. But what he always does to his chili, he always added Carolina Reapers with hot chilies. So, we was doing our usual thing. We went for a hike. He didn't know one of the girls was in the bathroom, and it was during the morning. So he runs back, we're heading back towards camp. His stomach starts acting up, so he decides to take off running. Now, mind you guys, like I said, we didn't know the girl was in there. We didn't know the door was locked. So he goes running, and he accidentally ran so fast that he bumped the porta potty, knocked the whole thing over. So I get there, and all of a sudden I hear a loud scream. And this girl was, I mean, like, she was mad because, like, she basically crawled out of the porta potty, and she was covered. Like, I was like if you guys ever seen those prank movies when you flip a porta potty and there's stuff in it, the person in there gets covered. It was that bad. So I looked at my friend and I was like, dude, you better run. Well, this girl was mad enough. She picked up a rock and she was going to chuck it at my friend. Now I calmed her down. I said, look, he didn't do it. I covered for him. What I simply said was, how do you know it was him? And she looked at me confused. I said, there's no security cameras out here. We're out here camping. We're all having a good time, yada yada. So how do you know it was him that knocked over the porta potty? How do you know it wasn't a younger sibling? Well, put two and two together, it turns out her and her friend had a couple of younger siblings that were with them at the time. So we passed the buck. So I passed the buck, got my friend out of trouble because let's just say it this way: if he would have taken the blame, I'm sure 10-1. Basically, he would have had a high heel someplace where he wouldn't want it. And let's put it this way: the place he would get it, you would need a colonoscopy to remove the heel and pretty much the shoe completely. Just saying. But anyhow, let's get back to the vid. Finish this up. We're at the 5:37 mark, so we're gonna try to finish this up as best as we can and go from there.
Mind you, these are Korean squatting style toilets, so they're stuck next to that toilet in the room. Foreigners are not given the ability to exit the room. They essentially stay in the room all day because there's none of the tasks that they can do because they don't speak Korean at the prison. They can't do things like serve food, etc. They're also only given about 30 minutes of outdoor time every other Saturday. So they're not getting much outdoor time at all. They're really stuck in that room almost the entire time. The other thing is you really can't talk. Talking is not a thing. Socializing is not a thing. You really can't communicate with people. And the only way people communicate is by letters or on the rare occasion that a family member shows up to see them. Hot water is something that people fight over in this prison.
Yep, that's pretty much three things Ramsey's going to be stuck with right there. So, fight for hot water, can't talk to others, only communicate by letter or by family visit, and 30 minutes of outdoor. Yeah, we all know he's going to go crazy. But remember, his crimes. So, like, remember, the 4 obstruction of business, 2 minor crimes acts, and 2 deep fake charges. All those completely built. So we got a feeling that he is definitely going to be getting a lot to ask for. Because let's put it this way: if the South Koreans in that quote unquote detention hell finds out who Ramsey Kahlid Ismael is, I just had a thought, and it made me think of every prison scene in video game movie. The 2 worst prison scenes I would think of is Shawshank Redemption and Saints Row 2. That's it. Because if you guys ever played Saints Row 2, then you guys might remember the scene where basically one of the guys who's part of the Saint Row Saints knows that the leader is in the hospital area of the prison, and basically he gets himself shanked just so he could get close to get some answers or find out about some information. Now, will I admit that the way they rolled that game, so that scene in the game story, I will admit it was classic. But at the same time, you're kind of risking your stuff stabbed in the giblets just so you can meet somebody who's part of one gang, someone you know, they know that you know. Kind of crazy. But let's move on.
In fact, they only get usually 1 hot shower a week. There's also no air conditioning, so he'll be dealing with a very, very hot summer in that prison coming up right now. Also, lawyers in the prison try to exploit foreigners, and oftentimes they're there giving bad legal advice. Of course, Johnny is no stranger to bad legal advice. Let's remind you of what his lawyer said to him during the pendency of the trial.
April 1st at 1000 hours.
Does he think that this charge will have any jail time? Because people on the internet are saying, I know it's bull. Don't even say that. Just say this charge. People are saying I'm going to go to jail for this. Is that true?
이거 감금 될까요, 얘? 많이 규제되면.
구속되냐고?
네.
그럴 가능성은 없어. 미국인이.
Yeah, I remember this. Okay, Jet. So I remember this. So this was when he went to when Ramsey Kahlid Ismael. If you guys can, actually, you guys can't see the right past Legal Mindset's head. That's where I'm pointing. But this guy asked an attorney when he was with Hank Yu that if there was a chance for that crime, he was going to go to jail. And basically, what ended up happening was the fact that the Korean lawyer, and you guys can see the subtitles right in the video. He says, "Oh, there's no chance he's an American." Yeah, I think at the time the lawyer that they went to see, I'm sorry, but he might have been picked the wrong time to quit sniffing glue, or he picked the wrong time to quit drinking the bleach or something, or he might have eaten paint chips, smoking the glue, or sniffing glue, whichever one you want to say, and then pull the Simpsons moment where again, guys, the Simpson moment where if you guys don't remember the bleach scene, it's when Homer goes into the bathroom and he thinks his wife is in the shower. He goes in and find out it's one of his twin sisters, or his wife's twins, one of his wife. Dang, speech impediment. Pause. Rewind. If you guys ever watched The Simpsons, the famous bleach scene was when Homer goes into the bathroom. He thought his wife was in the shower. He goes in and realizes it was one of the sisters between Patty and Selma. So after that, he quickly comes running out of the shower, reaches for a bottle of bleach, and pours it in his eyes. Then when he walks out of the bathroom, he sees his son about to go into the bathroom, and he pours the bleach in his eyes. And then the son goes, "Well, why'd you do that?" And he said, "You'll thank me later." So basically, whatever lawyer Ramsey Kahlid Ismael was seeing at the time, yeah, I got a gut feeling that's pretty much going to be the gist of the problem. Or, like I said, he could have been eating paint chips, could have been sniffing glue, or could have been the combination of all three. But what he should have done was make sure he got the complete information before trying to exploit and throw advice.
What do you say?
그래.
She's saying that
근데 저번에 처음
Probably not, because
얘기했잖아.
you are an
미국인들
American.
탑으로 하자.
See, this is the opinion he was relying upon. He was relying upon getting out because he's American, and even his lawyer gave him that bad advice that, hey, you're not going to get punished because you're American. Well, clearly that was not the case. The other thing is, of course, as you can probably imagine, prison food is horrible. You are only getting buckets of rice and soup, and this is actually very low quality. It was actually noted that on Korean holidays like Chuseok, they give out special white rice that is of higher quality because normally what they're giving them is extremely low quality, and people are fighting over the food and the rationing there as well. There is a commissary, but here's the problem.
Yeah, so like what he was just saying. So right here, food is horrible, buckets of rice and soup. So basically, it depends on the quality of the rice. So, like what he just got through saying, it depends on the quality of rice. Some holidays they'll have good quality rice, some they'll have not so good quality rice. But there's a lot of food fights over the food, so we know that.
You can't order from that commissary unless you speak Korean. Unless you're going to be speaking in fluent Korean, they're not allowing you to order from that commissary unless you can buddy up with somebody.
Okay, and again, I'm gonna rewind that list a little bit, and then I will fast forward it back to that point. So, like what he said here, can't order from the commissary unless you or they speak Korean. Well, correction, unless you can speak Korean. So that's one thing I will say is a good thing, because that'd be like saying you're giving them special treatment, but unless you can speak Korean. But because the also thing is, because Ramsey realizes that since his phones are confiscated and since he used those for recording, basically he could have used a translator to help him, but without those, he's screwed.
He's speaking in fluent Korean. They're not allowing you to order from that commissary unless you can buddy up with somebody who can order for you. So Johnny Somali is not getting any perks or anything special in prison. Let's turn to this letter here that actually looks at
Okay, so we do know that
a letter written from the prisoner that we interviewed, or rather to the prisoner that we interviewed, from somebody in the labor prison. So this is a letter written between friends. They were actually both, charged with a similar thing. And this letter explains how much better the labor prison is than the detention center. They say, try to come fast because in Chonan, that's the labor prison,
yeah, Chonan, like what they said, Chonan is the labor prison. So apparently, to everyone, they said that it's like angelic basically depending on what you can do. But remember, Ramsey does have a bit of a problem because remember the appeal he got that legal mindset just brought up in the beginning of the video. Because of the appeals, it doubled down his time. So instead of 6 months, it's going to be close to a year and 20 days. So we already know that. So let's figure this out and continue.
Time is passing very well. Every morning we go to the factory and 5 o'clock we come to the room. All day we're busy in work, talking to many people and also having the opportunity of a phone call. And also can talk to your friends. And fortunately with Mr. Park Chung, he is very famous in Chonan prison. Take good care of yourself and stay warm. Remember me in your prayers. This is the type of thing you're seeing. So you're seeing someone in the labor prison looking back and talking to someone in the detention center saying, hey, you got to get here quickly because this is so much better. That takes me to my judgment. So in judgment, Somali is...
So here's what we know about the judgment right now, guys. I know I keep pausing ahead, but here's his judgment. Now, I will put in what I see after reading these. Somali is now stuck in South Korea for beyond 6 months, likely a year, possibly more. The odds of that are pretty much, in my perspective, I see his judgments, but there's more I can see. So, like example, it says he's likely a year. I'd say they're going to try to fight to get him to stick in the 3-year section. Because, guys, remember, the crimes he committed, first off, the statues was one. We all know that every Korean wants to have vigilante justice. We all know that. However, remember, if you guys remember the Yu Dao-gun thing, he got arrested and he got legally fined for quote-unquote defending his country, but because there's no self-defense. So he did it for his country and knocked out the quote-unquote Golden Goblin. Or what did I say the South Korean name for Golden Goblin was? A Doka-ebi? I remember looking at... Great. Now I gotta look it up, oh mother chicken. Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, the South Korean Golden Goblin you're referring to is called a Yeah, I just had it. It's pronounced a Doka-ebi. It's and like what people say, it's a legendary creature that's depicted as a mischievous, nature-born spirit or goblin. So, so basically, they knocked out the quote-unquote Golden Goblin, or in South Korea reference, a Doka-ebi. If I'm butchering that, I apologize. I'm just making sure I get it right. But the long story short is, basically, he got knocked out. Dalgoon was looking at prison time, but he had fines. But he managed to pay the fines. So once he paid the fines, it was like, his detention center life will be a living hell, worse than the labor prison. I will call that one out because remember what we discussed, guys. Previous videos, like with all the previous videos that were out, and all the South Koreans are eyes on. Like Call of Duty, their eyes will be eyes on. So it's like if Ramsey's in their sights, it's like, yeah, this guy's definitely the one that caused the problems. Now we need to fix the problems. And they will be keeping, which I hope they will keep up with pushing for the max 3-year sentence. Because that's his third thing. It says, we will keep pushing for the maximum time in lockup in Korea. Okay, I don't mean to sound like I'm a grammar person here, but let's take a look at his typo real quick. So this one is good, where it says Somali is now stuck in Korea for beyond 6 months, likely a year, possibly more. His detention center life will be a living hell, worse than the labor prison. And it says but here's where he makes an error. It says, we will keep pushing for the maximum time in locked up in Korea. So, in locked up in Korea, I think what he meant was trying to say there because he didn't check the spell check or he pretty much didn't look into it. I think what he was trying to say is we will keep pushing for the maximum time in lockup in South Korea or in Korea. So instead of saying like lockup, he should he put locked, current, like you locked your door or you locked everything up. So yeah, so if he changes that to lockup, then that's one thing. So, but these are his predictions. Like I said, I will pause in each one and I will tell you guys mine. So we'll go for there. So let's really. Okay, why is this okay. Give me 1 second, guys. Ah, dagnabbit. Okay. Okay, let's continue this.
He's now stuck in Korea for beyond his 6-month sentence. He's officially going to be there even longer. Likely a year, possibly more. If we get a verdict that's even longer, that will be great. His detention center life will be a living hell. He's stuck in there, kind of head to foot, packed in tight.
Yep. So basically, remember what they said about the living hell part in the detention center. He's going to be packed in a room like a can of tuna with 6 other people. He is going to have to fight for hot water, proper food. Well, for food, you know, because you don't know. Like I said, with some prisons, if people take cold showers, some people take hot showers. They'll basically fight over the hot water. They'll fight for the food, but it highly depends. But remember, there are some probabilities he could get hurt because remember. And just bringing this record back up, guys. Remember his consequence. Well, his verdicts. 6 months, but because he went to put in an appeal, or 6 months and 20 days in the detention center, but because he put in an appeal, his thing is going to be doubled down. So which means he's going to be up for a year. Now they are going to be fighting to push the maximum sentence, which will be 3 years. So if they already got a year and 20 days, they're going for 2 more years, which I hope that'll be the case because seriously, in my honest opinion, he does deserve it for the deep fakes of what he did to Bong Bong and what they did to Youngman, plus all the crap he did when he was over there. And if it even gives justice to the countries he did discriminate, or not discriminate, disgrace, then yeah, I say go all out. But let's continue.
Stuck in the room, not going anywhere, no communication, no internet, all that other stuff.
Yep, and like what Legal Minds had said, he'll be stuck in a room like a vacuum packed can of tuna, no internet, no anything else. Plus, he doesn't have his possessions and all that stuff. So, which is a good thing.
It is worse than the labor prison that he is stuck in. And we are still going to push, despite all of this happening, as the prosecutor has appealed, as Johnny's appealed, we're still going to push for the maximum time locked up in Korea. We still think he needs to get multiple years, 2 to 3 years, and we're going to continue.
And that's what I agree with him on. The multiple 2 to 3 years, I agree with that one. Which is a good thing.
To push for that. But what do you guys think about his detention center hell? I want to know if it's is it deserved? Is it too much? Let me know in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.
All right, so we're gonna pause that. Now, I will close this out, guys, and I will remove the browser, and I will tell you guys what I think. Give me 1 second. All right, so with the browser removed, so I'm going to fill in on what I think on all that information. So, first off, his detention hell, I say he well-earned deserve it. Now, I know what everyone's going to be thinking, oh, well, if you say that, the booty goons are going to start causing an uproar and da-da-da-da-da. Well, you know what? Let them. Because apparently they're worshiping someone who pretty much caused all kinds of mischief in different countries. Okay, so let's backtrack. He caused problems in Thailand. He threatened a plethora of people. Now, if you guys don't remember, he did threaten Maria. He threatened Moxie. He threatened Xena, which, mind you guys, I never did show you guys the Xena clips. I never got around to showing the Xena clips, or I think I did. If I showed the clips in one video, I don't remember. I'll have to backtrack through all my files. But what I do know is we know he threatened everybody. Plus, on top of that, I did use unraw edited footage that I got from some people I know. So, because basically, if you guys don't remember, during the ABC Pizza debacle, he threatened Xena and Moxie, saying he had Somalian N bombs. I'm not gonna say the word because for one, guys, I was respectable, and I don't even say it. Even if I have a friend giving me the pass, I never say it. Now, if I slip up and now I will be honest, the one time I remember saying it was when I slipped up and I stubbed my toe. Like my brain was moving so fast that it just slipped out of my mouth. Of course, I had a little payback. Like, I had Christmas story themed payback, as in a big bar of soap in my mouth. So if I knew that, so that word will never slip my mouth again. But besides that point, but he did tell Moxie and Xena that he had Somalian N bombs that was gonna grape them. Okay, and then he got up face to face with Maria. Now, if you guys remember Maria, she was if you guys remember the perspective in the videos, they may have shown Maria in one of the clips, but she was the girl with the cool jacket, the blonde hair, and basically all she did was flip him off, like flip the bird or flew the pilot or pulled the Woody Woodpecker. Basically, she just used this finger alone. I'm not actually going to do it, but I'm just showing you. Basically, she just used this middle finger alone on him. And she never even touched Ramsey. Okay? The one thing I remember from that close-up, he got up in her face, and he said, touch me again, and I will Fujitora eliminate you. Okay? I'm not going to say the actual words. But you guys might get the gist. But he said it 3 to 4 times. His boy Gino got up in his face, and then basically he was telling Maria to hit the suicide button, pretty much. And what I mean by that is, like, if you guys ever played any video games where you're stuck in there, like what games did they have? If you guys remember, there was a game that the Angry Video Game Nerd reviewed. I think it was like crap. I think it was like Contra or something like that. But basically, you go around level to level. You take down all of, or I think it's Alien versus Predator, or it was one of those games. But basically, you play as a character and you go around throwing grenades and stuff against sand or boxes. And then when you upgrade your weapon, it'll tell you your upgraded weapon. But then if you're not careful, you downgrade. And if you don't hit the proper button in time, and you'll hit a suicide button, which will start you all over on the game. But yeah, but basically he was telling her to take certain types of medicine, jump out a window, stuff like that. So, do I think Ramsey deserves what he gets coming to him? Now, there's pros and cons of what I think. Pros, pros, which will be on this side. One, he will get his just desserts eventually. Because we all know him, okay? Like him, his buddies Gino and Hank, they're like chihuahuas. They'll basically bark like they're big dogs, but then when the bigger dog comes in the section, they'll stun down. They'll pretty much just be like, yep, I'm standing down. I'm pretty much just going to be cut at the ball sack, and I'm just going to be pretty much backing off. 2, now the probability of being found out. that's well, actually, I'll put that as a con. So we got one pro. Here's the one con. The one con would be the probability of getting found out. So if you guys remember, his face was plastered all over the South Korean news, which means any South Korean who would recognize him, especially with the Statue of Peace incidences in Itaewon and Seoul. Yeah, I can guarantee you that in that detention center, he'll probably become a comfort women statue, and we all know where that's gonna go. Because if you guys remember the history, the comfort women statue depicts of women, whether they were kids, elderly, pretty much anybody who was sexually trafficked in World War II. Okay, that's basically the gist of that one. Pro 2. Pro 2, he could possibly learn his lesson, and if he decides, hey, I'll try to write an apology and formally mean it, after seeing the hell I'm being in, I can probably see about getting my sentence lightened, make amends, and try to pay for everything. Now, will I see that happen? With his cocky and arrogant attitude, he's gonna be self-entitled, so I don't see that one happening. But I can put it as a possibility. We'll put it as a possibility on Pro 2. Con 2. He could basically get his butt kicked in the prison, in the detention center, and possibly, what's the best way to describe it? Possibly become a female. That's the con 2. Because remember, he was all over South Korean news. He basically was all over the place. And he basically was doing the whole thing where he would get attacked. And you guys remember all the attacks. Even though I can't find the clips and show them on YouTube. Because remember, YouTube censors it because, oh, we don't condone violence. Yet, you show anime violence, you should be able to just show the violence about what's going on. Whether it's news article related or vice versa, you should be allowed freedom of rights, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. Basically, if you're censoring stuff on websites, then you're basically saying you're basically restraining our First Amendment rights. Pro 3, if he actually I don't see any more pros. I see 2 pros, but con number 3 would definitely be if he decides to reappeal for a lighter sentence. Now you guys remembered what Legal Mindset said. He said that if they appeal again, he'll be stuck in the detention center, which means he could be in for a world of an eternal hell loop. All right, so 2 pros, 3 cons, and if it was a boxing match, I would say the cons KO'd the pros. So the only thing I'll do is I'll keep an ear out. Like I said, guys, if I do another vid like this, I'll probably react to the Tozy side, since we reacted to the Legal Mindset side. I put in my 2 cents in on that side, and remember what I said, guys. I will possibly pause the vid, say what's on my mind, but if I am doing that, I am only doing reaction vids. Because if you guys remember the reaction vid nuke from Ethan Klein about the whole thing where Hassan Piker, Denims, Frogan, iDubbbz, pretty much everybody in Hassan Piker's clique pretty much hit the content nuke. And then when they were watching the content nuke, basically what happened was some of them would walk away and do something. Some of them would actually do something. Now, if you're sitting there reacting to the whole thing, watching, taking a pause, just thinking, then it's like, okay, you're reacting to it, you're watching the whole thing. There shouldn't be a problem. So, alrighty, guys. So, I'll probably be hopping on some DBD. I might hop on some Darkest Dungeons 2. I might hop on anything. I don't know for sure. But I'm going to try to do what I can do and figure out what I can do. Again, guys, I do hope I don't have any issues with this vid. because, like I said, guys, the problems I had with my vid before was because I showed a copyright clip in there that belonged to the South Korean news, which if it still pops up on my thing, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to get in contact with them, explain the situation, but I'll have to translate the letter from English to Korean, and then if they send me a message back, I'm gonna have to translate from English to Korean. So, but I gotta do what I gotta do to get this mess fixed. And YouTube even sent me an email saying that it won't affect your channel as a copyright strike, but you know, I want to be on the safe side because, like I said, guys, whenever I have stuff that if the system picks up copyright music or anything like that, I'll have it removed so it won't cause any problems in the near future. And then I would make sure that everything's kosher and perfect on the channel, so that way it won't come back and bite me. And again, I'm gonna put 2 cents in on the swear jar for later, so I'll make sure to do that as soon as possible. But I just don't want it to come back and bite me in the ass later. So, but anyhow, guys, like I said, I'm gonna probably be doing a game. Don't know what yet. I'm gonna try to relax, do some more digging on files, and just go from there. But if you guys like the content, be sure to like, subscribe, and favorite. Comment down below. Turn on notification bell so anytime I go live, you get the ring a ding ding. Know I'm in the bling. If you guys are from the other side of the world, have a good morning, good evening, good night. If you're from the other side of the world, reverse of reverse. If you're from the good old USA, have a good night, do a good morning, do a good day. Bach the Rock sign out. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Till next time or later, peace out, and I'll catch you guys in a hot minute for gaming. If not, I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.